Our final guest has a most eclectic life. He sought out mentors he respected. He worked under a German botanist in a wildlife refuge, mountaineering in the Himalayas, martial arts in the Caucasus Mountains. And while the world was going digital, in a publishing house, making handmade books. How fortunate for us that he should land in an unlikely place called Vancouver and enrich our city as founder of the Indian Summer Festival. Please welcome Sirish Rao.
Bear with me as I weave through a narrative. As Sam mentioned, I'm the artistic director of the Indian Summer Festival in Vancouver, and we're an omnivorous, hungry, multi-arts festival that programs across various disciplines and argues really for the kind of world that we'd like to see, a society that is just, that is innovative, that is creative, that is garrulous, that is inclusive. And the festival's our way of manifesting that, of offering a model for that. And every year we work to a theme, and my theme this year is myth-making. And myth-making to me is one of the most interesting things that we've done as human beings. Ever since we found ourselves on this planet, we've asked ourselves, what got us here? Who put us here? What are we doing? Where are we heading? And so we've sat around campfires, we've gathered in amphitheaters, we have tried to give ourselves a reason and a story for being here. And so many of our myths are existential, but we also have functional myths, the myth of the nation, the myth of money, things that we've concocted, that we've agreed to agree upon just so that we can transact or live with each other. So the festival's really looking at this range, 10 centuries of the human imagination. And I grew up in a mythical culture. We had, as growing up, whether it was parents or grandparents or at school, the Mahabharata, the great Hindu epic, the longest poem ever written, comes in at about 1.8 million words, which is 10 times the length of the Iliad. To bring it to more contemporary terms, it is all the Harry Potter 7 books, twice that. So you could essentially listen to one story the whole of your life and be well fed. But somehow also in my school, one of the teachers decided to read the Iliad to us at morning assembly. And so we heard of the Trojan War and all these heroes, and myths have been a very important part of my life, the big stories. And so at the age of 10, I had a really interesting sense of the world through war, power, battle, intrigue, murder, bloodshed, love triangles, normal things that make life up. But from that grand start, I want to move to something that I personally am very fond of and very tickled by. I've always held that a society's most interesting stories are in its ephemera. And I also am a new father. And so, babies. Baby posters are one of the most bizarre and interesting things, phenomenons in India, where I grew up, where I was born and raised, printed in the hundreds of thousands. They're sold in little roadside stalls for almost nothing to evoke the same kinds of feelings that real babies do. This one is slightly sleazy. Historically, though, baby posters are sort of a subgenre of what can be called calendar art. Calendar art were calendars given out to clients by business houses, usually religious subjects, but for customers who were secular, they wanted to give some options. And so there was scenes, landscapes, ladies' subjects, which is basically women painted on calendars, or babies, the most universally accepted of all. And it has to be said that Indians dote on babies in a collective sense. It's not necessary that it's a particular baby. So fawning over toddlers is anybody. Babies are anybody's property. You go to a restaurant, a waiter will just pick up the baby and just run off and, entertain the thing, bring it back. I've seen a row of bearded software professionals. Each of them has a screensaver that is a baby poster. And so there's even movie plots in Bollywood of hardened criminals who kidnap a baby and then are moved by it and then reform. So, so in a way, babies are these things, these auspicious beings that us as adults can only revere and hope to aspire to. And so they miraculously balance the innocence of the present with the possibility of the future. And that's what I find so fascinating about it, that it's not necessarily the images of your child, that it is a baby is enough. And it's hard to fathom where the origin of this is. It could be because the ultimate baby is divine. This is baby Krishna. When his mother saw him stealing butter, she went up to get it out of his mouth and saw the whole world contained within it. And so, the ultimate baby is divine. Baby Jesus gets a lot of love in India. And so childhood can be harsh, but babyhood is sacred. And from the 60s through the 70s and the 80s, baby posters became this thing. They borrowed from American advertising magazines that were coming in. As you can see, these very pale and chubby creatures, which obviously were borrowed from somewhere else. But also, the sort of easily and unknowingly, babies bore on their dimpled shoulders the dreams and roles of adults. The ultimate Indian baby is the doctor baby. So, but also as carriers of dreams, they found themselves in some rather bizarre roles. This is Atom for Peace Mankind baby, which of course, when India went through, a young nation building its identity, went through a sort of Soviet-style era of poster making. We also got 20-point program as a blueprint for progress, baby. As well as farmer baby, soldier baby, the two symbols of a nascent, growing, powerful nation. All signs of national progress. And finally, my favorite of all time is this extremely devout baby, barely managing a namaste to Gandhi. Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, looking quizzically in the background. Lal Bahadur Shastri, the second Prime Minister of India, and for some reason, the Buddha in a sort of LSD cosmos behind them. So the reason I got into babies and I connect them to myth making is because they are mythical beings. Because they are tabula rasas, we can imbue with them the hope that we want to. We can still believe that humanity is somewhere deeply innocent, that they're a blank canvas for us to pin our hopes and dreams on. And because they do what any good story does, they give us a sense of wonder. And so there's a lot of room for sociological readings, but at one level, it's simply because babies are cute. And that's why these posters are bought and made. And I take a similar, rigorous, but quirky approach to the festival. And I'd welcome you all to come and check that out. Thank you again for being a wonderful audience. And thanks again, Sam and Lynn, for having me here.